All right, here's my original picture taken some years ago of the slave cabin at Hamilton Plantation in St. Simon's Island. Now the sketch I did a little bit of research online, and they since then have, I think, cleaned up some of the area, added a door, added a window, which was not that evident. They were working on it at this time, and that was a number of years ago. So I have taken this sketch that I originally did, and I transferred it on crescent illustration board 9 by 12. I don't know if you can see. I tend to go very light with my pencil lines initially because I do change my mind as I go along. I might make an adjustment. I want to be able to erase as I go. And all I use for a pencil are one of these cheap mechanical pencils you can get at a grocery store. And I use a kneaded eraser. This one is in pretty bad shape. I've used it forever, but it helps me erase effectively on watercolor paper and illustration board or anything else I happen to be working on. And there's the original. This was taken, it looks like a really nice day, a lot of colors. I decided rather than doing something this bright and colorful and cheery, I'm going to go ahead and do a very neutral, subdued palette. So we will see how this works out. So this is what I've got at this point, and the next process I have is to start carefully painting. So here you see my palette. The colors mixed up, and I usually work on a drafting board, but for this one I decided to work flat. And at this stage of the game, what I've done here is I've added some washes. Typically these cabins, I think, were, I couldn't tell you historically what they were. I'm basing it on the photograph that I have here. They look stuccoed, and I don't know if they were at that time stuccoed or wood or built with limestone, rock, I don't know. But I decided to stick with that subtle palette. I see on my sketch here that I decided to throw a lot of shadow on one side of the building. So I did a wash of light burnt sienna underneath, and then shadowed with some magenta and ultramarine blue here and there. And I kept this side of the building, based on what I thought my sketch was, lighter, with shadows being dropped from that bush on the side. I do like how that bush came out, even though it's not true to form. I like the color palette I'm using. So what I might do is, to balance it off, I might throw a bush here with that particular color palette also. So that's where we are at this stage. I did add on top of that sky that I did, that gray troubled sky, some green to those palm trees. So we'll just keep working it and see how it develops. All right, I believe I am finished. And I wanted to keep this piece very light, subdued, loose. I'm working on a small piece of 9 by 12 crescent illustration board, and I didn't want to overwork it. I wanted to keep all the colors nice and loose, blending into each other, because it is watercolor. And the purpose of watercolor is to let it flow and blend into other colors, water and paper. As I tell my students, let the paint and the water do the work. I added some green on this tree here. While I liked the abstract look of it with just the white and purple, it just didn't seem to fit the mood of the painting. So I added some green to try to match the green that I put in here on this bush on the other side of the painting. I worked on the cabin. I did not want to do a lot of detail on this cabin because of the type of structure it is and was, a slave cabin. I believe they've, since I took this picture, adjusted the windows and put in shutters, but I just decided to leave the openings. Did a little work on this palm tree trunk on the side, but I didn't want to overwork it. And basically left everything as is other than my signature and adding some more detail and shadow to the building. So there it is, a 9x12 watercolor of a preserved slave cabin from Hamilton Plantation, or the old Hamilton Plantation on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. And here, let me go back to my sketch that I did. I always try to pre-sketch something. I did this as a 9x12 to get to know the subject matter and my values. And also, this is the original photograph that I had taken a very long time ago. And that was my inspiration, and I wanted to keep the palette subdued. I did not want to use tropical colors. It almost has an old-timey feel to the color palette that I used versus using bright colors. So thanks for watching. I hope this helped some of you who are looking to do buildings. And remember, above all, just keep practicing.